Parsimonious science doesn't work, does it? The simple truth: space exploration is expensive. It always has been, always will be, and recently, I think people have convinced themselves that they can somehow circumvent this reality. Governments eager to trim costs and appear innovative and inclusive have increasingly handed over responsibility for critical missions to private companies, hoping that a parade of plucky entrepreneurs can do what took the full might of NASA and the Soviet Union in the early 20th century. But as the disaster with intuitive machines Athena lander demonstrates, bargain bin space exploration simply doesn't work. When we cut corners, we don't just risk failure, we guarantee failure. And the Athena lander, part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative, was meant to be a landmark in private space exploration, an American return to the moon's surface, a new milestone in the race for lunar resources. Instead, it landed sideways in a crater and died after 12 hours. This wasn't even a one-off failure. It was the second botched landing by intuitive machines in as many years. Their first lander, Odysseus, also fell over and lost functionality. In other words, we're seeing a pattern: private companies rushing to the moon, cutting costs, and delivering aesthetic victories but operational failures. The problem with Athena and Odysseus, these expose a fundamental issue. Private space companies are incentivized to take shortcuts, and unlike national space agencies, whose primary goal is scientific advance and long-term exploration, private firms are bound to profit margins, shareholder expectations, and tight commercial contracts. And the result: unrealistic cost-cutting measures. NASA paid $62 million for Athena's mission, peanuts compared to Apollo-era costs, and it shows. Rushed technology deployment in the Athena social panel positioning was fundamentally flawed, an error that any rigorous government-funded mission would have resolved in testing, wouldn't it? And the lack of redundancy, unlike NASA's meticulously over-engineered Apollo systems, which were designed with multiple fail-safes, these private landers seem to be a case of if it works, it works, if not, oh well. If we're genuinely serious about colonizing the moon, mining asteroids, reaching Mars, we cannot rely on a hodgepodge of underfunded private companies playing a dangerous game of trial and error. Instead, we need proper funding from national and international agencies. Apollo's cost was staggering, over $150 billion in today's money, but it worked. And the Artemis program, which aims to land astronauts on the moon, has a $93 billion budget. That's what real space exploration requires. Space must be a public investment, just as it was in the 1960s. Maybe an international investment. The international cooperation, not a private bidding war. The European Space Agency, Roscosmos, NASA, CNSA, the China's space agency, and ISRO, India's space agency, must pool resources. Instead of allowing individual billionaires to treat space like their personal playground, governments need to set long-term visions. Landing a spacecraft is incredibly difficult, as demonstrated by Athena's ultimate demise, and space exploration requires decades of research and rigorous testing, not Silicon Valley-style move fast and break things ideology. The failures of intuitive machines demonstrates what happens when we prioritize cheap contracts over proven expertise. Space isn't a business opportunity, it's a frontier of human exploration. And the Apollo program wasn't about quarterly earnings, it was about proving what humanity could achieve. If we want to return to the moon, set foot again on the moon, set foot indeed even on Mars, or establish a suitable, sustainable presence in space, we must fund exploration properly and run it as a scientific endeavour, not a commercial sideshow. Otherwise, we'll just keep watching landers tip over, taking our dreams down with them.